Bethesda have just released part 1 of a series, Into the Starfield, The Endless Pursuit, starting with episode 1, featuring Todd Howard and the other game designers who are working on this. They talk about their approach to Starfield and the game design and how the game is going to be. So subscribe if you want to stay updated with this kind of content, and let's give it a watch and react to it together. Here we go.
I think the one thing people underestimate about video games is that people think it's just playtime. But I always say that the one thing video games can give you that nothing else in entertainment can is that feeling of pride, right? Look what I did. And even though we want to make a game that is very big and is very long, you can play for all of those years. It's all the paths you didn't take that make it special to you, that you feel.
This is so true, and I think a lot of video game developers, like with Call of Duty Warzone and games like this, there's a massive focus on like, we just need to keep the player playing. Whereas if you give the player memorable experiences that they care about, that they talk about and tell their friends about, then they're going to keep coming back. They're going to want to find out how to resolve problems other ways and do separate playthroughs. That's why we're still playing Bethesda's games.
Make it special to you, that you feel like when you finish that quest, that you feel that you accomplished something that week. The people who love video games can always say, like, you know, what'd you do today? I saved the world.
Save Skyrim again. That's definitely me. Into the Starfield. Oh, so this is going to be a series, The Endless Pursuit, episode 1. Awesome.
We've been incredibly lucky to work with such a tight group of people for so long. Like, we're all friends. It's like a second family in a way. We all sort of know or get what a Bethesda game is.
There's definitely this core group who's been working together for decades and knows how to make a BGS game. And then there's this, new generation of game developers who are coming in and working at BGS who grew up on those games those people made. For some people, those are the games that got them to go into the industry in the first place. And what I love about that is those people come in and they love the worlds too, and they want to stay true to those worlds that they grew up on. And so we're still able to maintain what a BGS game is, but continue to evolve.
I think
that is amazing in itself. A lot of game developers don't have that. Such a beloved series that fans of the games come into the industry and then they want to continue building that world and the same narrative, and they already know the lore and they love it. Look at all the mod creators that now actually have jobs working at Bethesda, which I think is awesome that they finally support them in that way as well.
I underestimate how long people are going to play it. You look at Skyrim, we're sitting here 10 years later, and it keeps having this life, and it changes how you want to create something.
Yeah, I feel like our games.
So Todd literally just said that they went into Skyrim not realizing how long people were going to still play that game. And people are still enjoying the heck out of the game 10 years later. Now they're going into Starfield with a design aspect that they want people, they know people are going to play it for the next 10 years. That's the aim. That's really interesting.
Sort of have two lives, right? Like, we create this game and we put everything we can possibly put into it, tell the stories we want to tell, and build this world that's sort of a setup that when we hand it off to the players, they play it, but then they take it and make it their own. They tell their own stories, and then they make their own stories with our tools.
I think it's the hallmark of our games that, you play it, and my experience is going to be different than yours. I'm going to come in and tell you a funny story about something that happened to me. You may never have seen that because just a confluence of events, and I think that helps with the longevity, and it helps with that feeling of community in a lot of ways.
It is a world that you get transported to that you can really make your own, and that's where, for me, the magic is, to do it for 2 decades and close to that for so much of our group. There's a big trust there that we know how we solve certain things together. We were doing Morrowind and looking at what we might do after that and beyond that. And we had a list of what are the other types of worlds we want to go to. And obviously Fallout was at the top of the list, if we could do that, and that, magically, luckily came true for us. And right behind that was, science fiction. Going to space, I think there's a magic in just defying gravity and taking off from a planet. Like it's extremely difficult human endeavor.
Yeah, a lot of our games are about exploration, and that's sort of like, that's the ultimate exploration, is what's out there, what's past Earth, right? So it's incredibly exciting for us to work on something like that. I feel like every time we come to a game, we're starting fresh. We're saying, okay, we just did that one, that's over. How do we make it better in every way? It's got a more realistic, science-based backing to it.
Oh, okay, so realistic science-based backing. I kind of already saw that from the trailer. It's kind of based in a world we would know and be familiar with, but in space, obviously, we've seen the concept art. Yes, there are aliens, there are monsters and creatures and different factions that exist, but it has a grounding in something that's familiar to us and relatable, which I think is very important in having a connection to the world and the game. And you're not just playing some crazy sci-fi shooter that you have no context or relation to. And I really think you need that grounding when you go outside of Earth, because there's nothing to relate back to. You're just exploring sci-fi cities, right?
Whereas Skyrim is sort of an epic fantasy. This is a more grounded game and a grounded setting about exploration. So I think that gives us a different take on how we make everything. So that's sort of the thing you latch onto when we're making new areas, making environments, making characters.
The mechanics of the world are entirely different, but there are similarities. And I think those are things we like. Like, we like playing first person. We like having all the coffee cups. We like being able to touch everything. Those moments make the whole thing believable. Being able to watch the sunset and nighttime come and just sit there and watch the world go by seems like it's not gameplay, but it is vital to how you feel through the rest of it.
I also think that because it's based in a more realistic atmosphere, is like, you have a lot of people on our team who are super into certain things like robotics or engineering, and they can use this lifetime of knowledge they have gathered and then use it in their work.
Everyone comes from these different areas and brings stuff to the game that can make it in, and it all matters. From the rocks to the clutter to what the spacesuits look like. It's based on people's experience and sort of the clutter.
This is a really interesting room that looks very like subterranean, underground, with the fan and a very quick sketch. We've got like an Explorer Indiana Jones hat and gear that you're going to use when you go out backpacking. It really tells this sort of story. The concept art of this game is just absolutely amazing. I mean, look at this vault door. And then there's really otherworldly looking planet here, and we have the same Starfield spacesuit there in the foreground.
The rocks to the clutter to what the spacesuits look like. It's based on people's experience and sort of learning about how things work in the world and trying to apply it in a way that's believable for this universe.
I think you need that connection.
Yeah, it starts feeling so real to us. Like, all you're saying, we do all that stuff, but then concepting like everything they eat, or the toys the children play with, or what are their bedtime stories? What is their art? What is their history? What is their entertainment? It is a universe, not just a game.
There has to be an emotional trigger that occurs. And I think as time has gone on, we're able to paint an even better picture that triggers that emotional thing.
You always have that step out moment into the world, so to say.
This concept art gives you a real, like, all the concept art of Starfield gives you a real sense of like scale and a feeling that you are just alone in the universe. And that's something that I think a lot of people get when they look at space and they're like, we are so insignificant in the grand scheme of things. This concept art and all the concept art for Starfield really gives me that feeling, and I hope that they capture that feeling of loneliness and isolation in the game, because this is one of my favorite concept arts I've seen, actually.
You always have that step out moment into the world, so to say.
I mean, that's a memorable moment in Oblivion, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, when you like leave the vault, when you leave the sewers in Oblivion, when you first step into Skyrim after escaping the dragon attack in Helgen. How's it going to take place in Starfield? I don't know. Let's find out.
Technology's changed, we've all changed. So our expectations when loading up a game, like, okay, I'm gonna step out and there's gonna be this moment, us being able to do that and have it feel new every generation, every game, is something that is really special about what we do. I like to say that Starfield has 2 step-out moments. It's cryptic.
Ooh, what does that mean? It's cryptic.
Our product has 2 step-out moments. It's cryptic.
Oh, that's really interesting. When he says it has 2 step-out moments and it's cryptic. So that could mean a few things. That could mean like you have a starting story choice of where you start. I think Bethesda kind of likes you to kind of enter the starting narrative in the same place on every playthrough. Like you're arrested, you're a prisoner, and now you've escaped, sort of thing. And it kind of has this blank character backstory in that sense. But there being 2 step-out moments kind of suggests that you enter the game and like things are kind of like maybe how you expect them. Maybe it's like a grounded, relatable feeling of you're living at home on Earth, for example, like in Fallout 4 with Sanctuary Lane before the nukes dropped. It was the first time we saw pre-apocalypse, sorry. So will they build in this sort of idea that you step out once and you think, oh, this is Starfield, and you step out again and you're like, oh my god, it wasn't what I thought it was, and it kind of breaks that mold because he says it's cryptic. So what does that mean? It's really interesting. Let me know what you think about. That's like one of the most interesting sentences in this whole interview so far.
Our process of making it is a journey for us that is very, very rewarding. And coming to Starfield, everybody's starting over and saying, what would you want to do? What does going to space mean to you? And everybody comes back to the same one. I want to see what's out there.
Exploration is key. Start your journey today. One of the things we also see here is the photogrammetry technology that they're using. This is a place on Earth that this texture was scanned, and then that's used to create these amazing landscapes that we've never seen before on the different planets that we'll be visiting. And I keep seeing these flying ships and landing ships, and I understand we're going to have our own small spacecraft, but what is this? This looks monolithic in scale. Are we going to be able to drive one of these things? Probably not. I don't know. Also, if you guys are interested in learning more about the factions, we have broken down this Word document here that Emil is actually typing out. So if you guys want to check out that breakdown, I'll link it down below in the description. But I think the most interesting thing to me is their approach to Starfield, which excites me, especially with Todd Howard saying there's kind of like 2 reveal moments when they like show you the world, and it's cryptic. What does that mean to you guys in the comment section? Let me know. But they've put together a series here, and we're going to keep watching them on the channel, so subscribe for that. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.